All right, today we are diving into a transformation that is, frankly, pretty intense and deeply philosophical. We're going to break down the journey of a figure named Wutan and his descent or maybe his ascent into becoming the Mad Rune King. This one's a heavy hitter, so let's get right into it.
Okay, this first line, this sets the entire tone. You gotta understand, this isn't just a guy on a cliff. This is a worldview being purposefully dismantled. Wotan's entire journey kicks off right here, with him making a very conscious choice to let go of everything that society, and probably he himself, once considered sacred.
So our first stop is what the story calls a necessary end. For Wotan, the old world isn't something to be saved, it has to be completely torn down to make room for something new. And this is a choice, not some tragedy that happened to him.
So, why this total rejection? It all comes down to this concept of the last man. In Wotan's view, all of society's values, its honor codes, its morality, they aren't noble ideals. They're a gilded cage, a kind of stagnant architecture built for a person who's afraid of risk, someone who just wants comfort above all else. To Wotan, that's not living. That's an end state he has to violently reject.
And this brings us to a really crucial term you need to know for this: Untergang. Now, this isn't just downfall in a bad way, it's a strategic collapse. The best way to think of it is like a controlled demolition. You have to clear out the old, rotten building so that a new, sovereign architect can rise up from the rubble. So, how does he start this demolition? He starts with himself. He shatters his own moral compass. By just tossing out the moral North Stars of the past, he creates this terrifying vacuum of purpose inside himself. But why? Because only in that absolute emptiness is there enough room for his true self to expand without any limits. And right here is where it all clicks together. The Untergang, that deliberate collapse, is the only way to get to the Übergang, the dark transition, the total crossing over into a new kind of being. You simply cannot have one without the other. The downfall is the doorway. Okay, let's keep going, because this is where it gets really wild. He's cleared the philosophical ground, so to speak. Now, Wotan starts the actual ritual to remake himself, physically and spiritually. This whole thing is a process of self-annihilation, all designed to build a new soul from the ashes of the old one. And this ritual, wow, it unfolds in 4 pretty brutal steps. First, he literally carves these things called the Mad Runes into his own skin. Then, he uses that act to purge what he sees as human weaknesses, things like pity and fear. Next, he replaces his own rational mind with something primal, the energy of the void itself. And the final step? He becomes the very core of a divine chaotic storm. Now, let's stop on these Mad Runes for a second, because this is fascinating. They're not just symbols or tattoos. The text calls them a cognitive virus. I mean, think about that. It's like a language specifically designed to infect and corrupt human logic. It's basically overwriting his mental operating system, turning his mind from a vessel for thought into a high-tension conductor for the raw, chaotic energy of the void. And the final piece of this insane ritual is a bolt of divine lightning. This is the thing that finally shatters what he calls the God-sized cage of morality, that last anchor holding his soul to the old, dead world. He doesn't just wield the storm anymore, he becomes it. He bypasses the limits of human reason completely. So, Wotan has fundamentally changed himself on the inside. What happens next? Well, his internal transformation starts to bleed outward. It literally begins to reshape the external world into a projection of his new sovereign will. This slide just lays out the massive gap in perception perfectly. On one side, you have the last man, who sees a terrifying collapse of order, a complete fracture of sanity. But on the other side is Wotan's view. He's seeing a superior reality. He's not seeing order versus disorder. He's seeing the raw, shimmering force of pure will, what the text calls der Wille, the chaotic, absolute truth of existence. And at this point, things get really trippy. The line between Wotan's mind and the world just dissolves. It evaporates. Reality becomes a direct mirror of his internal chaos. Industrial cities, ancient forests, they're not separate things anymore. They're just cogs in his personal psychic machine, all vibrating with his singular, mad purpose. And right when this connection between his mind and the world seems to stabilize, one last thing happens. A pivotal moment.
the final venomous catalyst that pushes his transformation over the edge. A tarantula bites him, but its venom isn't just a poison, it's a gift. It injects him with this mad vitality he needs to fuel his new state of being. It gives him the resolve to finally master what's called the cosmic joke, the ultimate irony of existence. And maybe most important of all, it locks him into a perpetual cycle. To keep his power, he has to constantly sacrifice his old self, again and again, forever. And all of this brings us to his final form. Wotan isn't just a man or a storm anymore. He is the Mad Rune King. And his reign, his triumph, is defined by something tragic. I mean, this quote really says it all. Here's the paradox at the heart of his story. He's achieved absolute power. He can shape reality with his will. But the cost is complete, total, horrific isolation. He is the only one living in his reality, the only one who can ever understand it. But, and this is the final twist, for the Mad Rune King, this isn't a weakness. This horrific isolation is actually his greatest strength. It completely frees him from needing anyone else's approval, from being judged by anyone else's morals. All his purpose, all his meaning, all his passion, it's all found within his own willed madness. And so this is his ultimate state. He is both the destructive force, the lightning that strikes the tower, and the corrupting idea, the rune that breaks the mind. He is the sovereign ruler at the end of all things, a king in a kingdom of one. And that really brings us to the end of this journey. Wotan's transfiguration is a powerful and honestly a deeply unsettling thought experiment. It really forces you to ask, in the quest for absolute self-creation, to become the sole architect of your own reality, what's the true cost? What do you have to leave behind?